Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Greetings to all of our guests and foremost greeting to our guest, Dr. Cherno Omar Bari, the current Vice-Chancellor and President of the International Open University. We're indeed honored to have him on the ground. I think having greetings to all of our guests and foremost. I think having an introduction of him would probably consume much of our time, considering the vast areas that he had touched on. With that, we would be centering the seminar on the proposed topic, structured education vis-a-vis online learning. So Mr. Barry, we indeed honored to have you on ground, and the floor is all yours.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. As-salatu was-salam ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wa'ala. I am indeed very delighted to join you here today to do a presentation on the topic that has been shown on the screen, as you have all seen, structured education vis-a-vis online learning. So I will try to share the presentation so that we can at least enjoy the presentation. Let me just try and see if it can work from my end. I'm not sure. Technology is one thing we're going to talk about indeed, but I'm just hoping that things will go out the way we want it. So can everybody see the presentation?
Yes, I can see it, sir.
Okay, so I'm not sure which slide we are seeing now, but I think it's the 4 slides, hopefully.
Sure.
Okay, so
Yes, sir.
Maybe to start with, the first thing that is very important to note in this whole affair is that structured education is a very difficult thing to start defining now. I will say what we mean by structured education here. We are talking about really the type of education that we know in a conventional way. Is the one where you go and register in an institution and you are accorded a classroom and you start studying in that classroom. So this is the way the structured education is defined for the understanding of the public that is listening. So the whole discussion now will center on how these two match. I mean, how do we compare the two? I will focus my presentation on online learning as a start, and then by around the end of my presentation, I will now give you the comparison, the comparative advantages of online education compared to structured education. That's my major focus here. So therefore, I will begin with an introduction. I have not indicated that in my outline here, but apart from that, I will probably look into certain areas. This is modified, but certain areas, affordability, flexibility, global collaboration, etc., until we discuss on what it means really to go into online education. So we will start with introduction. So here is it. If you are really considering whether an online graduate degree is the right choice for you, be sure to consider the benefits online learning has to offer. So basically, as I said, my focus will keep highlighting on online education so that you understand at the end. Now, this introduction is just telling us that if you want to balance education with your work, with your life, and with what is required of you, in a way, an online degree would be the ideal solution. Further than that, you realize that even an online degree can prepare learners for a career advancement, which I will demonstrate in my presentation. It can also help you develop skills so that your employers would be very happy with you. Probably it can gain you promotion. It can gain you awards. It can improve your performance. So it is projected that by this year, that is 2022, about 18% of jobs will require a master's degree. Now, this is for those who have already probably got their bachelor's degrees. So it means, therefore, that if you have a bachelor's degree and you are now at work, sometimes the chances of you getting to leave your job and go and do your studies is probably a difficult choice. Most professions, you know, I mean, most jobs, if you are in the private sector, for example, the chances are almost none for you to leave your job, go and do your master's and come back and get back your that job or get promoted there. If it is a private sector, the moment you leave, they replace you. Now, you are only lucky to get that when you are in the public sector, meaning when you are working for government who will give you that opportunity. So naturally, your intention is to keep improving yourself, or you have to go to government, and not everybody can do that. So if you note that by 2022 in the Gambia, for example, we have a lot of bachelor's holders coming out of school, universities around, conventional universities. And the moment they get stuck in a job, now they don't know when to do their masters. They always want to do their masters, but they cannot. So what we are saying now is that gradually, when there are too many bachelor's holders, they will start looking for master's holders. So someone can go and study and find you doing your bachelor's. And if you are lucky, you will still retain your job. If you are unlucky, he will come and become your boss. So this is why we're saying that learning online builds on those benefits and helps prepare you for today's globalized workforce. I'll give you many other explanations. So adjusting to online learning model, therefore, is a challenge, really, because you see, when you are used to the conventional way of learning, where you go to class, you have a lecturer to come give you the lectures, you are giving the notes, etc. So what will happen eventually is that you are used to that kind of traditional way of learning. However, what it means also is that if you now have to shift from that conventional one and go to online, the first challenge would be probably time management. That could be one challenge. There could be also the challenge of having to readjust, you know, to that flexibility where you can learn at your convenience. So these are some of the things you will, face as a challenge. But you see, once you adapt to the format, you will find there are numerous benefits that you can gain out of it. So whatever happens, is in the choice to go online, to use online, is a fundamental choice now today in this world, which should always be demonstrated as well. So what we are trying to tell you is that earning an online degree can help prepare you for career advancement and demonstrate key skills to potential employers. And here we are looking at very few advantages, because there are numerous advantages. If you go to online, you will find multiple of advantages on the benefits of online education. But I'm going to highlight just few, just to buttress this point. So let's say, for example, in the issue of affordability, that's the first option here. We all know that when you are going to conventional education, the cost is very, very high. So there's an example, because we are global. I will use, for example, the University of Chicago, where the cost of an average education, average cost is going to be $4,489. $4,489. And if you stick around to earn a 4-year degree, just a 4-year bachelor's degree, you will have to be paying $188,000. $188,000, or maybe $189,000 to round it up. Now, can you imagine? That's an exorbitant amount. How many people can afford it? How many families can afford to get you your education through that? I mean, it's difficult. And then when you go to your master's, I remember when I was in the UK some time back, that's about almost 20 years back, I wanted to do my master's in the area of interpretation and translation in the University of Salford at Manchester. When I went to the university itself, they told me that I will have to pay about £8,000. At the time, £8,000 was a huge amount of money. It's just a 1-year program, £8,000. There was no way I could have paid for it at the time, and no one could have afforded to help me. So this is what we are talking about. Now, the reason why online is an advantage is because the fees can be much lower in this case for the following reasons. First of all, there is no overhead. You know, the overhead is very, very minimal. You know, you don't have teachers who are retained full-time throughout the year. You just retain a minimum number of teachers, core teachers. You don't have to retain professors who are very, very expensive to pay. All the professors in all the fields. You need some key professors only. Basically, most of the other professors are contracted to develop the program and then record them. The same thing will go for instructors. And then you see, when it comes to the space itself, you don't need a classroom space because the classroom space is a virtual one. You don't need to, worry about buying student materials and selling them. You don't need to worry about all the other utilities like paying electricity, paying water, maintaining a building, etc. So these costs normally gets back to the student who is going to pay their tuition. So naturally, these are what we call overhead costs, and they come back now to the tuition, and they're included in the tuition to be able to get them back. When online, you don't need to pay all these things. So there is a minimal cost when it comes to the overhead. And then the advantage also, you can have a plethora of courses, many other courses from which you can choose from. You see, when you are in a conventional school, sometimes you are restricted to go through a well-defined program. But if you are in an online program, you can really diversify. You can do a lot of other courses without having to worry. And you see, you can choose your course according to your budget. You don't have to worry about, getting stuck with the institution's recommendations on the selections of your course catalog. And the other thing is, the most important, as I mentioned earlier, is that you can get qualified teachers, qualified professors, but who do not have to be on full-time all the time. So that you can learn from every craft, you can learn from every subject. And by the way, most of these people also, with online education, sometimes they can also share experience. You can have a lecturer who can come and lecture on their experiences. They don't have to be a fully accredited prof. They are qualified in their professions. They are qualified in their areas. They could be managers of institutions who have spent years, managing an institution. They could come and share their experience online. And this can also cost far less. And as I said earlier, you don't have to also have to go through all these materials, learning materials that you need, paper handouts, desks, chairs, papers, writing utensils, whatever. Now we know that there are very sophisticated blackboards. We call them smart boards. But even that, you don't need it because you have everything on your learning management system. And there are a lot of other programs that, for example, if a lecturer comes to teach you, once he teaches his lecture and he's gone, it's finished, you have missed out on that lecture. You cannot listen to it again. Online education allows you to reuse that material, to be able to listen to the lecturer many a time and better understand what the so you see, if you want to save money there for education, there is no other better option than going online education. So this is it. This is why creating online education, going online education is a very important one. Now, the next option is the flexibility. So you see, many people turn to online learning for its flexibility. There's so much to say about the flexibility for sure. So let's say, for example, here we are talking about physical classrooms, which have certain limitations. For example, as I said, you will need a budget really to make sure that these universities can hire professionals to come and teach. But, you need to come to class. You have to go and go to class. And then going to class itself, it's another constraint. Because going to class requires you, therefore, to be rigid within a timeline, within a timetable. And that rigidity also gives you a problem. So there's a comfort of learning from your own home if you wish. You see, that is what the advantage of virtual learning. You don't want to leave the house, for example. It's understandable. Work becomes too stressful, friends become too demanding, and your body needs a rest. One of the hidden advantages of online, therefore, is the element of flexibility, of self-care, which it allows you to enjoy. And you can still exercise your mind without the daily grind of getting to struggle through a host of other problems, related to your learning. So this is the flexibility, and we can say a lot about flexibility in this case. For example, you don't even have to really struggle to do your program, for example, during a particular period that is restricted. You can, for example, decide to do your program during 4 years, if you can do it in 4 years, or you can opt not to do it in 4 years and you can do it in probably 6 years. So flexibility is there. You can also take your classes with you on the go. You can be studying your new subjects from a coffee shop. You can be in a doctor's office waiting for your appointment. You can be in the subway. You know, if you are in Europe, for example, you can be in this train that takes you over to your office. So these things are things that you can do and at the same time study. So in other words, you can continue learning even when you are, you know, jet-setting instincts find you on the other side of the world. Let's say, for example, you're traveling on plane. So online learning also gives students the option to learn in whatever setting is most productive for them. Some people can't concentrate, for example, without absolute silence. Let's say, for example, you are in a class and it's very noisy. You know, you find it difficult to, you know, to listen. So you can be in your home, you can go to somewhere where it is very, very calm, very quiet, and you can still get your lectures. And some people, so others need to listen, for example, to Quran a little or some things to surround themselves with what we call a kind of an activity to stay motivated. And these things are the options you have. You can choose them at your own will and you can learn and it will help you a lot. You see, most people can't afford to take 6 months off work to learn a new skill, for example, which is the typical duration of a classroom course semester, for example. In fact, recent research shows that between 50 to 75% of Americans, for example, live paycheck to paycheck on annual salary and household income. So if you take online classes, you can study while you work. After you get home from the office, you can knock out an online lesson or 2, then repeat the process the next day. You might even squeeze in study sessions during your lunch break and on the weekend. So when it comes to flexibility, you know, definitely online education is the one to go for. Now, when we talk about, like, for example, with your online education, the chances also are that you can link up with the world. And this is the advantage. Let's say, for example, International Open University. We are proud to say that we are linked to the world through 220-something countries. And we have a vast number of students, large number of students. You know, some of them are in all the corners of the world. As an online, as an IOU student, the advantages are you can also communicate with all these people. You can talk to all these people because you have what we call the student forum, you know, the student sessions where you can have your possibilities of communicating with people from different parts of the world, get to know them a little better, get to know some of the challenges they face when they're learning in their education. And you can do that through WhatsApp, through internet, through email, a host of other platforms can give that possibility. So you become exposed to new ideas and points of view by different students who will enhance your educational experience. Because you see, university has that word, that connotation of universality. So that allows that opportunity. Yes, you might probably argue, yes, why don't you think that the conventional university don't even have that? Because you have a lot of people coming from different parts of the world who will convert there. That is possible. So colleges and universities might seem like social gathering places, but they actually create what we call insular environments. You are exposed to the same people every day on a campus, so you don't have many opportunities to branch out. The borderless nature of the internet, of the online education, is one of the greatest benefits of online classes. Through an online course, you can meet people on the opposite side of the globe. Each interaction offers more opportunities for depth and growth as you explore your education and gain new skills. By the way, you might even connect with people you meet through social media and even in physical gatherings. So if your classes include, for example, which we have like our live seminars or live forum, you can interact directly with fellow students and your instructor in real time. And this is the advantage of online education. So yes, that is something that you will not, you can never tag financially because of the gross benefit that it can bring. Now, the other option is that there's a faster way of learning new technologies. With online education, learning new technology is very easy. Let us all remember, we live in a world where the new technologies have expanded considerably. People have now grown to love, to get connected to new technologies. So there is no way you can, do online education without discovering, in the previous time, somebody will tell you about Skype, Dropbox, Slack, Trello, or Basecamp. Today, you have even more advanced other options. With Google Workspace, people now can have Google Classrooms. But, beyond that, you also have a host of other software that you can use to better understand yourself. So what we call the learning management system, the LMSs, that are used to teach students have now been opportunities for people to maximize the use of online technology or the new technologies to better understand how to use them, to better understand how to interact with them. Today, you can write your assignments on Word electronically. You can send them on Word through a platform that has been dedicated for it. And then you can get your results instantly. You can do your exams instantly and get your results instantly. You can do your, so there's little time now to say, okay, I'm going to wait maybe for 1 week, 2 weeks, etc. Which the offline or the what we call structured education system would oblige you to do, because naturally the teacher is going to mark and there's going to be a lot of time doing that, etc. So it is more learner focus. It is more focused on you as the learner, rather than having the conventional education where you have more teacher focus, because the teacher is the one that is central in everything. He's the one you run after. He's the one who gives you the courses. He's the one who gives you the lectures. He's the one who recommends the handouts. He's the one who recommends the reading materials, etc., etc. While if you are learning online, you have the opportunity to expand your even research opportunities. So you can use the virtual world to learn more about other areas. You can use YouTube for a better use than just going to look at videos that are not of relevance to your life. You can use even free Facebook or any other learning social media for a better option in your education, rather than using it for other things. So it will give you an experience in a way that would be more beneficial, especially in the world in which we are, where technology is taking a great decision on us. So there are many other choices also when you are doing online education. We mentioned it earlier. The greatest advantage here is that as a professional, if you are, for example, you're already working, you can go learn from any school you want to choose from all over the world. You don't even have to travel, you can choose any university you want. International Open University's headquarters is found in the Gambia, but you don't have to be in the Gambia to learn with us. You can be in Malaysia, you can learn with us, while the headquarters is here. You can be in Sri Lanka to learn with us. You can be in China to learn with us. You can be in America to learn with us. So we exist as an institution, but more of administrative in the Gambia, because this is where we are officially based, but we operate everywhere in the world. We are borderless. But in addition to that also, you can also have a lot of programs that you need, that best meets the needs that you have in your life. You can choose skills, very short programs. The International Open University, for example, is offering short diplomas. If you're a Muslim, for example, and you need to know your deen better, you can be offered programs that are well suited to your needs as a Muslim, and you can learn them and you can improve on your deen. But then if you're also looking for example, education, you're a teacher, you want to learn, you don't have any certificate in education, you can come and do a 2-semester certificate with us and get your certificate in education, because then that would allow you to be able to teach, knowing that it has given you what we call the teaching skills or the teaching knowledge, on how to teach. So these are some of the things we're talking about. If you are, for example, working in a bank, and you're a Muslim, you want to know a little bit about Islamic banking, you can come and do your certificate program. Later on, you can decide to even come and do the advanced program, which is called the associate degree in Islamic economics, banking, and finance. And you might even end up doing your bachelor's. And soon the master's will come up. And then you can do what we call your master's in Islamic economics, banking, and finance. So these are opportunities you don't have. That kind of flexibility in the choice of your programs, in the choice of your design. All over. So you can be, for example, an economist, but you can be diversifying your skills because of the online opportunities that you have. So these are all things that you can help, inshallah, while you are studying. So, okay, so All right, so let me just finish my presentation. Some questions are coming up. I'm sure we will get to the questions and answer session. So then the other thing is also the possibilities of the marketable skills. You know, I mentioned earlier your choices, but then you can also have what we call your marketable skills. You see, today people are looking for jobs. You finish your bachelor's, for example, you start running around looking for a job. They ask you, have you got an experience? Do you know this? Do you know that? Now, a bachelor's, for example, is not enough. Sometimes you need some additional skills. You know, so an online education gives you that diversity to be able to study and then also improve on certain skills at the same time. It is all possible. You see, and career advancement include upskilling or reskilling or earning a promotion or salary increase in case you are in a job where your requirement is, for example, a certificate in management, as I said, a certificate in education for teachers, or even switching career fields. You might be, for example, in a bank, you know, working as a banker, but you prefer teaching because you find it more fulfilling and decide to do a certificate in teaching. Once you do a certificate, you are done, you apply, and then they see that you have your academic degree in your field, but you also have a professional degree, which is certificate, and then you are appointed, and you might be lucky. You might probably even get a much better post. Or you can simply just want to develop your skills for personal fulfillment. There are certain skills that you need to know. For example, IT skills, we are offering IT skills and you want to know them, then you get them. And then you study online. So since online learning is a flexible option, this format appeals to working professionals in particular when you want to acquire marketable skills. And then there are other options. Let me just give you some examples with regards to this. You see, there was this Emeritus Global Consumer Sentiment Survey, which was conducted, and it revealed the following among its respondents globally. It says that 10% of the respondents were career restarters of those looking to re-enter the workforce after a break. And 23% were career builders or were hoping to build upon existing skills. 21% were career switchers or were looking for ways to expand opportunities. 31% were career advancers or were hoping to advance in their current field. 13% were career launchers or those who are looking to start a new career, and only 1% fell into the other category. You see, so what it is saying is that there's a large number now of people who find it just not enough to just know one skill and be restricted to that one skill and be doing one kind of job and be remain in that one kind of job for the rest of their lives. Everybody now wants to diversify, wants to improve on your skills. And that is going to be an advantage. And that advantage can only be offered by an online education, because you cannot go into conventional education. You go and do your bachelor's, you finish work, and you want to leave and go and do another skill, learn another skill in 6 months and come back and work. So that kind of thing will not be convenient. So naturally, what will happen is that you might lose your job. So these are some of the things we are talking about when we talk about going conventional. So now we are going to move into those, for example, who find it difficult to really fit well within a structured form of institution. Now, these could be introverts. These could be moms, people who have already mothers and they have got their children. In some cases, it could even be prisoners, you know, people who would need the opportunity to be given an education. And unfortunately, they cannot, because if you are a mom and you're taking care of your children, you have maybe very young children, you'll find it difficult to be going to school and spending the whole day there when your children are home, they need you. If you are poor, naturally, you cannot have the cost to pay a nanny. If you are an introvert are those people who find it very difficult to be more active, more participatory, or even there are people who cannot even fit within an environment because of the nature of the environment. They are not comfortable in that environment. So these people would rather want a more convenient environment, and they can't have it in this structured form of learning. So what they will opt for certainly is online. Online is going to give you that opportunity because you can learn and study in an environment that is comfortable for you. Like when you are learning at home, you can create your own unique atmosphere. You know, you can have, for example, if the children are all asleep as a mom, then you can now start, you know, learning. You take your 1 hour or two. And most importantly also, your age will not matter. I'm sure most people who go to a certain age would find it very, very difficult to go back. Let's say you never had the opportunity to do your bachelor's program until you are now, you hit 40 or 45. Now, to see going back to class, you know, probably with some people who are closer to the age of your child, sitting in the same class, some people find it very difficult to do that. But online education gives you that opportunity. So you can learn, you get any degree at any age. And IOU has that opportunity that will give it to you. So that includes also eliminating distractions, or having a comfortable workspace, or having the tools you need to work with close at hand without having to carry a ton of things to a classroom. Sometimes you carry a very heavy bag full of books, full of tools, classroom tools, and you keep running around the whole campus, making sure to find somewhere convenient to study. At some point, certainly it will cost you backache, depending on what you are carrying. But you see, this makes everyone, irrespective of their situation, to access education. Once you understand that online education gives you that opportunity. Now, the other thing is the continuous acquisition of knowledge long after college. You see, learning is something that should continue for the rest of your life. You should continue learning every time. You should be able to, it's a lifelong learning, as they call it. Lifelong learning allows the opportunity you to learn at your convenience. It allows you to learn at any age. I mentioned it earlier, etc. So lifelong learning is a very important element here. So I think this is why it is encouraged. It is highly recommended that you continue learning skills, developing your skills at all ages. So this is, for example, the last slide that is very important here. Now, let's say, for example, the traditional education, which we have tagged in this presentation as the structural education format, or the structural form of education. Now, let's say, for example, where the traditional education requires less discipline, but imposes more structure. For the online, it requires more discipline on the part of the student, but allows the student to create his or her own structure. You see, this is where you understand immediately that the online education is learner-centered. And any form of teaching, the moment the lecture is learner-centered, is focused more on the learner, the chances are he will learn more. He or she will learn more. He or she will acquire more. He or she will be more independent. He or she will also inculcate certain skills in himself or herself, like self-discipline, self-reliance, a host of other things. So this is why online education also has that advantage. And then you have also the demand of a heavy schedule. We mentioned it. That brings flexibility for online education. The demand of specific lifestyle. When you are doing traditional education, you need, for example, to be going to the institution. You might be required even to wear certain kinds of cool clothes. If you are a Muslim, in some institutions, you are even obliged to drop away certain of your Muslim attire. Like if you have hijab, in some institutions, they will probably refuse that you put on the hijab. And as a result, it affects your education. And these are some of the problems that you face. And it fosters competition too, because this competition normally would be more focus-based as a learner. While if you are doing online education, it's more of personal growth and development. You are more focused on yourself. You are not in a class where you see Mustafa or Omar doing well, so you want to do as much as they are doing, or because they are doing well, or they are demotivating you because they are doing better. No, you don't have to worry about anybody doing well, because you are focused more on yourself when you are doing online education. And here, where the traditional one is emphasizing on social spirit and unity, you are more into learning specific skills. Where it is emphasizing on cost, it is more affordable for you. Where it is suited more for younger students, as I said, it can be suited for all ages. So at any age, you can do online education. Where it restricts available time, you have more time when you are doing online education. You can spend quality time with your family, and when you know that you have your time for your own time, then you can study. Where the traditional or the structured one requires a physical geographical location, the online one permits students to travel. For example, today, if I'm a student, I'm sitting in the Gambia, and all of a sudden, I'm required to go to Senegal, maybe, or maybe I'm to go to Sri Lanka, or maybe to go to Thailand, and I'm supposed to spend maybe 1 month there. You see, if I was in a conventional school, it is difficult. If I'm in a structured school, it's difficult. I cannot probably go. So what I will do is I will take permission. If I go, I will miss out a 1 month class. 1 month lecture is a lot. But if you're doing online, anywhere you are, you can still continue to do your studies without any interruptions. I'm almost done for those who are raising their hands. We will get back to you in a while. So where there are rigid deadlines, there are more flexible deadlines. Even in examination, the online education, for example, you can do your exams in a matter of a week. During the period of that week, you can do your exams. Unfortunately, when you are doing the traditional one, You might do your exam on a particular date and a particular time. If you miss it out, it becomes more complicated and more problematic. So where you can have direct students and educators in traditional one, yes, the online contact with students, it's going to be online, but even there, it's more diverse and it's more expanded. Where you have access to campus activities and services in the structured one, you have access to endless online materials in the online one. Where you have high demands on time, you have low demands on time, because the online one gives that flexibility again when it comes to the time. So in short, this is what I wanted to present to you. As I said, there is so much to say about this. I don't want to belabor much on it. I know there are many people who are interested to participate in this. So we are going to make it interactive. We're going to open the lines. We're going to listen to you, inshallah, and we're going to interact and then discuss as much as we can. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Amin wa iyaka. Jazakallahu khairan wa barakallahu lak. We indeed benefited much from the presented material and the presentation. We couldn't highlight the benefit ranging from affordability, flexibility, and the benefits goes on. Without wasting much time, we go straight to the questions that are raised during the course of the presentation. We have few hands raised for now. Let's see if we could attend to them. We have Seidu. We have Seidu DM Kamara. Okay, we have Abdul Rahim Bari. Those with questions can kindly unmute themselves and ask direct questions.
Do I understand that the questions are on the text trail, right? Chat on the chat trail.
On the chat we have messages, but
Okay.
not yet questions. We have
right. Okay.
We have some that are requesting for the presentation material.
Inshallah, we will share them as soon as we finish. I'll share them with you, and you can share them as widely as possible, inshallah.
Inshallah. So mainly, before we have questions, so Mr. Bari,
Now,
notwithstanding the vital role that the IOU had played in the field of online education, and we can say the IOU is indeed a pioneer in such a field. Most notably, questions regarding courses that would be very difficult to undertake online are usually raised. Let's say in the field of medicine, in the field of engineering, and so on. So are there any measures that the IOU would be taking or plan to take in addressing such areas?
okay, so let me just probably be more general as a start, then I'll come to the IOU. As I said, technology has been evolving considerably today. And there are a lot of universities now that are teaching what we call telemedicine. You know, they're using telemedicine to teach. They don't need to have the student to be physically present. So what they do is they use either simulations, laboratory simulations, to teach you lab knowledge. Like you have to use a lab and give you even assignments, and you will use the simulation to do your practicals. Or they can also teach through telemedicine how to operate on a patient live. So you can sit down, let's say you can have this structure established. Let's say, for example, your lecturer is in the UK and they are doing a live operation, and you are one of the students who is supposed to learn, you learn to be a surgeon or a doctor, and they are doing live operations. So what they do is, when they are doing the live operations, while you are in the Gambia here, or you are in Malaysia, you will follow, and they are going to make sure that as you follow, they are going to be explaining, whoever the doctors who are there, where what we call the lecturer himself will be explaining stages of what to do, and then how the machines are supposed to be, how the patient is supposed to be put in which condition, before operations, what are the tools that you need for your operations, how to prepare them in advance, how do you prepare yourself, what you should wear, etc. So these are all done while the student probably is also in a theater room and listen. In some cases also, you can even have a doctor who is going to help you operate as a student in a different country, while they're in a different country, depending on how you are doing it. So once you have them, it's all fixed online, and they're going to see you, and they're going to instruct you face by face, and whatever you see or whatever you do, you report back. So there's kind of a live session going on while an operation is going on. So in short, it is now, things are becoming more easier. For example, patients soon will not have to travel distances to go and look for treatment. They might probably stay in their condition. If you wanted to treat yourself in India, the treatment can get right to you in the nearest hospital that is equipped without you going there. And then if you are learning medicine, for example, there are, as I said, laboratory simulations now. So in certain areas that are probably more complex, the IOU has not yet entered into those areas. What the IOU did, as we all know, initially it started with, the arts, if you want, and the humanities, Islamic studies, psychology, which is a social science, and then it expanded, it got into education, and now we are talking about Islamic economics, banking, and finance. And as we keep expanding, as we get to IT, which is probably, which requires some industrial attachment, which is a requirement to graduate, and a host of other things going on. Now, you see, the advantage of IOU as an online university is that we keep evolving as per the needs of our students. We have, IOU started with Islamic studies alone because that was what was needed at the time. As the students kept expressing their needs, the IOU kept expanding. Now we are expanding gradually, we're expanding slowly and solely, because you see, expanding will require someone to take time to do that. We cannot just rush into certain things. So we are avoiding fields that would require a lot of infrastructure, a lot of expenditure, because we want to ensure that we give an opportunity to all the needy. To every child in every corner of this world is supposed to get an opportunity to learn. So this is why we open our windows, we open our doors to everybody through the type of education we provide. You see, a case in point, if you are, for example, within a very, very poor environment, let's say you come from a country where your living conditions are very, 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 very low, and that your purchasing power is very, very, very low. What we have instituted is learning centers. We create these learning centers. We look for funding to support the learning centers. We establish them, and we allow people to travel very little distances to get to the learning centers. Ideally, if it is very close to proximity to where you live, it's ideal. But sometimes because of the cost, we might not have it, and we still need internet and a host of other things. But if you are able to get a learning center close to you, then you have still got the flexibility of going to that learning center at your own convenience to do your studies. Sometimes these learning centers are required to open from the morning up to 6 o'clock in the evening, and in some cases they even open at night. Like in the case of the Gambia, the learning center is open almost the whole day and most of the parts of the evening. In some cases, I used to be up to 12 midnight at the office, and I still see students coming out of the library because we have their computers, they have access to internet, everything, and they're still there studying. So this is the kind of flexibility we're talking about. So we want everyone, every child who is targeted, who has no means, whose parents have no means, who otherwise would probably never boast of getting a bachelor's degree or a university degree, to have that opportunity and be given an education. So I think this is also part of the advantages of International Open University. I agree with you. We have been a pioneer. Presently, as I speak with you, I see our IOU as one of the leading online universities. Most of the other universities are more hybrids, more blended learning. They either have their structures already in place and now they are venturing into online, or they have already been established to be online, but they still have to build big structures to be able to sustain themselves. IOU has not been doing that. IOU started virtually from the beginning. It has been building virtually. The only structure you might be boasting of is probably the headquarters and very, very minimal other learning centers around the world. Otherwise, basically what we always have is virtual education, because we believe in it. We know that is the future. The founder, Dr. Bilal Phillips, believed in it, and he's emphasized that this is the way we are, because we are bringing education to the doorstep of every individual. We are changing the nation through education.
Jazakallahu khairan, Dr. Bari. Indeed, well clarified. I hope such points have been clearly tackled to subdue subsequent questions with regards to such an area. Once again, Jazakallahu khairan. We have another question from YouTube Live from Brother Hakim Tachala in Togo. He reads, you speak French. Will IOU start some programs in French as well?
Alors, bonjour notre ami du Togo. C'est tout un plaisir pour moi, le président de l'Université International University, de vous répondre dans la langue que vous connaissez le mieux. Alors, nous avons entamé vraiment la traduction de nos programmes en français. Nous savons que, étant donné que nous sommes une université qui est quasiment charitable, une université qui a assez les moyens d'investir dans la traduction de nos programmes, nous y pensons. Nous n'avons pas complètement éliminé l'idée, mais nous y pensons. Nous avons commencé à préparer un budget pour la traduction de nos matériels. En ce moment où je vous parle, nous avons réussi à avoir du soutien pour traduire nos matériels en russe, et nous avons aussi traduit nos matériels en ourdou. C'est la langue principale des Pakistanais, même une partie de l'Inde. Et nous avons aussi vraiment entamé la traduction dans d'autres langues. Mais sachez que ceci nous coûte très, très cher. Et c'est pourquoi parfois il nous est difficile vraiment de pouvoir y aventurer. Tout récemment, nous avons discuté sur la possibilité de faire la traduction en français. Et nous y pensons sérieusement. Donc, nous allons chercher certainement des partenaires financiers qui peut-être souhaiteraient nous aider à traduire au moins quelques programmes en français. Et si cela nous est accordé, nous allons commencer la traduction. Oui, nous pensons vraiment à élargir le cercle. Mais pour le moment, nous conseillons vivement à ce que vous vous prépariez pour apprendre l'anglais, qui est en fait la langue d'instruction de l'université, la langue d'enseignement. En attendant, c'est le seul moyen que nous avons. En attendant, donc, comme je vous ai dit, de trouver la possibilité de traduire nos programmes en français. Mais je vous remercie quand même pour cette question. C'est une question pertinente et nous y pensons sérieusement. Merci.
Bonjour, doctor. I had to stop and then that's for my dialect, right?
Yes, that's good. That's good. And I'm sure you can speak better Arabic than me. So I'm also fine-tuning my Arabic. Hopefully soon I'll also be doing my lectures in Arabic, inshallah.
Inshallah. Jazakallahu khairan. We have a question regarding the hybrid program for education. The brother said he would need a bit elaboration on the hybrid program.
Okay, what we did was in the Gambia, where the headquarters are, we noticed that there has been a challenge for teachers who are teaching, as I said, who are already in the profession, but who have completed an advanced diploma, the equivalence of an advanced diploma at the teaching college. And what they have now faced with is that they wanted to do their education at the University of the Gambia, which is a national university, but apparently they needed to do it for 4 years. So they were a bit worried. And the Gambia College, that is a college of education, reached out to IOU and then suggested a collaboration. the harmonization of their programs to allow students who complete their advanced diploma to join the International Open University, and instead of doing 4 years to attain their bachelor's in education, to rather do 2 years. So this was agreed upon. And once it was agreed upon, so we went ahead, and alhamdulillah, we were able to start preparing the program, developing the course material, and eventually we launched the program. Not without hitches at the beginning, but alhamdulillah, we have now, I think at this stage, got to a point where we are improving it better. So the hybrid program, as they call it, is more a Gambian program at the moment. It's not yet an online international program because it responds to a particular need in the Gambia. So we've entered into an agreement with the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education, who is the main beneficiary, and also agreement with the main sponsor, MRC Holland, who are providing the support to see that teachers are upgraded from an advanced diploma to a bachelor's program and are given opportunity to teach in the secondary school to improve the quality of education at that level. So this is what we mean by the hybrid program. And I'm sure you have all seen it in the correspondences that have been sent by IOU to different students all over the world, but it is more specific at the moment for Gambia. And it is it's a pilot program at the moment. Once we are certain we've got it properly done, we're going to mount it online. And inshallah, we're also going to give opportunities for every other person around the world who would have completed a professional certificate, advanced diploma in education from a college, a teaching college, anywhere in the world. Once we establish that they have done that in a specialized area, then they would be allowed to do a 2-year program with us in English. Now they can do it in any other subject. We have also, history. For those from West Africa, they can enjoy that one because history is very sub-regional. And we also have science. We are doing agriculture, etc. So you can do an education program specialized in an area where you can have additional content knowledge in that area, but as well as understand pedagogy. Yes. Thank you. I hope that answers your question.
Surely. Jazakallahu khairan. I think it is quite unprecedented that the IOU is indeed quite advantageous in stepping in areas that other universities regionally have lapses. I think this requires a commendation at the side of the IOU in facilitating and helping in areas that other universities are having lapses or couldn't overtake. Kudos to the IOU. Meanwhile, we yet to receive some questions.
Some hands are up. I can see Seidu's iPhone's hand is still up. Unless he doesn't have something to say, why can't you give it? And there is also Kemo Samati, I think about 4 participants have their hands up. Give them an opportunity, maybe if they are still waiting to talk.
Sure.
Seidu able to connect? Seidu, if you're able to connect your voice, maybe there's an obstruction, maybe. Is there any obstruction for them to be able to speak? Otherwise, if Seidu is not able to talk, can we invite Kemo Samate, maybe? And there's one person also, Galaxy Tab. Maybe that's the one who asked that question. Yes, maybe that's the one who asked that question about the hybrid program.
Yeah. So Seidu, Mr. Samate, you can unmute yourself. You have the access to unmute yourselves and then be available for the platform.
Okay, sir. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Who is speaking? Introduce yourself, please. Wa alaikum salam.
Yes, I am Kemo Samate.
No.
An IOU graduate 2022. I don't have a question. I just want to make a remark, if I'm permitted. I would first of all say thank you and congratulate our venerable Vice-Chancellor, the Associate Professor, Dr. Barry. I had my first impression or first interaction with him when I attended the last alumni launch, and I was deeply impressed by him. And today, alhamdulillah, mashallah, the presentation is fantastic. And if the materials could be shared, I think it would add value to all of us that have graduated, because as he said, learning is a continuous process for the rest of one's life. I have graduated BSc in information technology, but I am seriously considering taking a course in Islamic economics, banking, and finance. And maybe this is for the benefit of other participants, because I was also highly impressed with one of our guest speakers at the launch, Mohammed Sonko, who I believe had completed his degree or certification in Islamic economics, banking, and finance. And this has seriously impacted positively in my thinking. And I am seriously considering taking a course in Islamic economics, banking, and finance. So alhamdulillah, mashallah, our venerable professor, thank you so much. The presentation is excellent. Alhamdulillah. Jazakallahu khairan. Thank you so much.
Ameen. Wa iyyak. Allah accept all the duas. He's indeed someone highly beneficial.
Saidu was unmuted, so I think he can speak.
Okay. Brother Saidu. Okay.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you, Dr. Barry.
No,
I really learned from you today, and by listening to your presentation has increased something in me, because it really helped me by listening to your. I've done a lot. I just have a question that I want to ask. What the IOU has taken with the Gambia College, wherein if you pursue HGC holder or advanced diploma, and your grade point is above 3 point, you can able to pursue 2 years program at IOU. And at the same time in IOU, you cannot graduate without writing a thesis. So I'm also asking, it's going to be like writing thesis 2 times, because I believe writing thesis and writing project at the Gambia College is the same. So I don't know why IOU is asking us to write our thesis when we have already did our thesis at the college, and at the university again we are writing our thesis. So it confuses me. So I said, let me just ask this question.
I know students are always afraid. Students are always afraid to write. You know. Listen. Okay, can you mute your side of the mic, please? There's a lot of noise coming from there. Saidu. Okay. Listen carefully. You see, education has a way of improving you. Has a way of strengthening your background. I think somebody's mic is not muted, and that is stopping us here. So can someone help us mute that, please? It's probably Abdurrahim.
Okay. Now it's fine.
I've muted myself. Okay. I was saying that online education, I mean, in the case of the hybrid, sorry, to get back to your question, we should understand one thing. At every learning stage, there are challenges that might differ from your level. Listen, if you do a bachelor's and you have a project work, you go do a master's, you still have to get a project work. They will not exonerate you at master's level because you did it at bachelor's level. And it is not because you've done a research work and master's that why you cannot do it in PhD. No. Listen, I think the chances of you having to develop projects, write theses, is a very good thing. One thing, we are not reading. And the second thing, we are afraid to write. So because we are not reading, we are afraid to write, because we have what we call a poor cultural and linguistic baggage, a very poor background in the language. And therefore, we are very afraid to write because we know we will not write something probably good. But that should not be the case. That's why the practice is important. So if you have done a project at the college, maybe you've been asked to do a project maybe of 25 pages. You come to the bachelor's program, you might be asked to do another 25 pages. When I was doing my PhD, they asked us to write 500 pages. So it means that you are training yourself. So in my view, don't be afraid to write. But to be able to write well, also don't be afraid to read. You should learn to read as widely as possible. That is your only secret to writing well. That's your only secret to speaking well. There is no other secret there at all. If anybody tells you there's a secret in, being a good speaker or being a good writer, other than the one I tell you, there is none. So I think we should understand that. We need to focus on reading a lot. There are, as I say, plethora of material online related to your subject matter. But beyond that also, try to read as widely beyond the subject matter itself. Because look, you are perfecting yourself. You're building yourself personally in that skill or in that knowledge content. So don't restrict yourself with only the materials that are recommended to you. So that means find your time from time to time to read, train yourself, program yourself. I do a lot of reading myself. I do so much reading that sometimes if you go to my office, you find that my office is all messed up with books. I mean, those who have visited me, there are always books. They keep packing them. I keep unpacking them because that is exactly what it is required. And you have to read in every other subject, as many other subjects as possible. If you are doing Islamic studies, you are not required to read only Islamic studies books. You can read history books of other subjects. You can read, you have to diversify your knowledge. And reading builds your understanding of the language. It helps you express yourself in a good English, in better English. It helps you write proper English too, So I know these are all skills, but you gradually also practice makes perfect. The more you practice, the more it's perfected. So the hybrid program is a requirement for IOU for everybody doing an undergraduate to write a project. This is not in other universities. In fact, I don't know any university that will tell you to write a project at bachelor's level. I don't think there is. I'm sure those who have studied at UTG, they will tell you they have not done so. IOU is doing so because we feel we want you to be central in your learning. We want you to be independent, to be self-reliant, to be self-training, to be self-productive, so that everything comes from you. You are central in your learning and not the teacher. You see, that is the whole thing that we are going to demystify here. So once you become the central focus in your learning, then everything matters much around you. What you earn, what you learn will remain as true knowledge. Otherwise, you might just pass exams, and maybe a year later, when I ask you those skills again, you might not even remember 10% of it. But if you learn with us, if you give us that rigor, if we give you through that training, we make you central in your learning, the chances of retaining up to 50%, up to 60% of your education is high. It's very high. I'll show you on this. So I think don't be afraid of writing, my dear brother, Mr. Saidu. Okay? Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Once again, jazakallahu khairan. We have Adama Gay. Adama, if available, can you kindly unmute yourself?
Yeah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Hello, Doctor. Unfortunately, I came in late, so I wasn't able to hear all the presentation that Dr. Barry was doing. I'm from Gambia, and I just have a question for Doctor. I know that the admission criteria for most universities may differ. So for IOU, I would like to know precisely what is needed if you want to admit in the university. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. There's a flexibility in our admission criteria because we have many windows or many doors through which you can come. Let me use doors instead of windows. Windows have a negative connotation. Before the Jahankas will believe that they can always jump through the window. Now, on a serious note, we offer different levels. It's true that as a university, the first thing that you will think about is the undergraduate program, that is bachelor's, and then master's, and then PhD. Yes, we do those ones too. But we didn't start like that. We started offering diploma programs in which there is no criteria for entrance. You don't, I mean, even if you have 0 credit, or even if you have not done high school, or you have done up to grade 9, but you are still interested to study. So we have got those courses also available. That's why IOU is very versatile. So, but those ones are non-degree programs. They are diploma programs, certificate programs, and they build your skills in different areas. If you're a Muslim, for example, you really want to learn about your deen because you really want to know it more, to be able to practice it well. So we have those programs. We have them offered. And there are other programs that we have in our sister institutions that are all under IOU, like the ILM Institute, where you can go and do a whole program for $10. That's about $500. And you do an exam, you get a certificate. And those programs are very structured because they can relate to, for example, how to take care, as a Muslim, how do you live with your wife and children? How do you bring up your children? How do you do your nikah? How do you perform marriage, and etc.? Because these things are things that we tend to ignore, we don't take seriously. But as Muslims, we need to know every aspect of our social life as a religious person. So we have those programs in the diploma level and certificate level. We even have what we call basic Islamic education, at a diploma level. Now they're charging some little funds, but as I said, it's insignificant compared to the knowledge you gain. But beyond that, when you get to the degree program, that's where now it becomes a problem, because we need to also standardize, harmonize with the world. So if you are doing a bachelor's program like Islamic Economics, Banking and Finance, naturally your background should have been, economics, management, financial management, things like that at secondary school, or at least you should have done mathematics and accounting or things like that, something that relate to banking and finance before they take you to go and do that, so that then you go and do it there. But you cannot also do it without having the required credits. If the Gambia requires you to have 6 credits to be able to join the IOU, 5 credits, including English, to be able to join the Islamic Economic Banking and Finance, which requires mathematics too, then it means that you have to have 5 credits, including English and mathematics. However, if you are doing Islamic studies, you don't need mathematics. So you might just need your English. Sometimes if you have a pass in English, it's also acceptable because the core program is in English, but we just need you to be able to read and write in English. So we have some flexibility, depending on the programs. We are just saying that we will not also compromise the quality by accepting students who might not otherwise handle the program and be able to go through it well. So these are some of the things. So we are flexible in general. And by the way, if you think you want to do a bachelor's program and you know that you don't have 5 credits, you might probably come and do the certificate program. That one, we don't require 5 credits. You might probably need only 3 credits, including English. And then once you do a certificate program, then you can do your advanced diploma program. That one, we only need your certificate. If you have a good pass in the certificate, you do your advanced diploma. And if you do a good advanced diploma and you get good credits, then you can go to your bachelor's program. We are convinced that an end result, the intelligence of a person cannot be measured by the results that they have. So we are convinced that if you have done a grade 12 or Form 5 and you've got some results and they are not as good as you anticipated, that is not the measure of your intelligence. That is not the measure of your capacity. That is just a testimony of your trial, of your effort. But if you put extra effort, you might probably have better. Or if the conditions were less favorable in other conditions, you might have probably even got better marks. So this is why opportunities are given to everybody, inshallah, to join us, and we support them, we help them, we guide them, we counsel them while they go through our programs, inshallah.
Inshallah. Jazakallahu khairan. We take our last question from Brother Saeed, watching live from YouTube. He's asking, how long does it take to receive your certificates, hard copy certificates after graduating?
Okay, that's a good question. We've been having challenges around that. Initially we were accredited in Somalia. So once you finish, we need to have at least a substantial number of graduate students before we start developing the certificates. It was very expensive. And this is the reason why sometimes we ask you to pay $200. Some people don't understand the logic of it. Normally universities don't ask you to do that. The reason why we ask is because when you graduate around the world, we have to develop the certificates in one particular area. Sometimes it's in India, or sometimes it's in Malaysia. And once it is developed, printed, and it is embossed, now we have to distribute it by mail. Sometimes the best mail that we know is most secure is DHL, unless there's an alternative one that is as secure as DHL or very close to being DHL. Otherwise, we don't want to just send our certificates in normal state correspondence. So one delay would be to get a substantial number. Like if you're in a program like, let's say you are doing Islamic economics, banking and finance, and in 2021, you are only 10 graduates out of it or around the world, it means we might need to have till 2022 and see. If 2022 you have another 10, it means you have 20. And now we will now to print that, but we need to see also in other programs how many we have got. So let's say if you get 100, it is much more economical, because if you take 100, then what happens is that when you are printing it, the cost would be much cheaper, and it will be much easier to also send it around the world. But if you, let's say if you have only 10 people who have graduated, let's say, Islamic economic banking and finance, and you want to send that around the world, the amount is going to be expensive for IOU. And as you all know, IOU is not a profit-making institution. What we are trying to do is generate enough to be able to sustain the institution, to be able to develop more programs, to be able to encourage you people, so etc. So that's why it is important that in our efforts, we make it possible to provide whatever we can at your disposal. So I can't tell you for certain, immediately after you graduate, that this is the time period that you will have it. But now we have improved considerably. The number of graduates have increased now. So alhamdulillah, after every graduation, you can anticipate maybe 6 months or maybe to get your hard certificate. But look, if you think it is necessary, it is urgent, we can exceptionally take consideration of that and then find a way of getting it to you as quickly as possible. Remember, when the certificates are printed, they are not immediately dispatched. They come back to the Gambia from Malaysia, for example, to be authenticated by the Minister of Higher Education and also authenticated by the Minister of Foreign Affairs before it's dispatched. So that when you are in any part of the world, if there's a question as to the credibility, you can show your certificate, signed, stamped, and signed by 2 ministries in Gambia, authenticating that this certificate is valid, and therefore you don't have to worry. So it's a process, and sometimes it can take a little longer than anticipated. But once it is done, the dispatch is done pronto, immediately without delay. Yeah.
Jazakallahu khairan. Well clarified. Indeed, clarified. Doctor, we understand that your schedules are busy, and we're indeed honored and glad to have you on board, but we wouldn't want to keep you much longer. And we knew that you had significant issues to cater for. What will be your closing remarks? What would be your last words?
Okay. Before that, I saw a question from Galaxy Tab. Okay. I take your question on the chat group, but please, I think we will restrict ourselves only to the one you put on the chat, Galaxy, please. All right. I don't know what's your name, but I saw just Galaxy Tab S. But listen, you are asking me, how do we structure the hybrid program, whether it's going to be online or it's offline? Presently, it's offline. The first year is online because we have the general requirements, which is all found online. But then the second year, the specialized programs where you are studying history, if you are going to be a history lecturer, or you're studying agriculture, where you are going to be an agriculture lecturer or teacher, it is done offline at the moment. But we are thinking of eventually developing them and building them online. But we are also very conscious of the fact that what might pertain, like in the area of history, what might be relevant to Gambia might not be relevant to somebody who is in Indonesia. So we are also very careful with that. So we are going to make sure that even if we are going to do that, we are going to give several options in learning history. Islamic history would be one of those. We're going to do other forms of history. So for those of you who are interested in history in general. So yes, it's part online, and that's why it's hybrid. It's part online and part offline. I hope that answers your question. Okay, thank you very much. I first of all want to thank everyone. I want to commend the student committee for organizing this. I have seen all over the world student committees organizing this. This is a demonstration of great responsibility, but true, connection to the IOU. I would just want to emphasize at this stage that, and this is good news, that the International Open University has got all its programs accredited now at undergraduate level. We have developed master's programs in almost all our programs. We have, for example, business administration research focus We have Islamic Studies research focus, as well as coursework. We have MED, Masters in Education. We are going to have Islamic Economics, Banking and Finance at master's level. So we have program develop all these ones. We might not launch them immediately, but the programs are developed. They are going through accreditation. And hopefully in 1 year time, we will start launching most of the master's programs. So if you are patient, for those who want to do masters, maybe even by next semester, some of these ones will already be offered in psychology, as I said, and other areas. So that is one. The second thing is that we are also hoping that the IOU, that you will continue to be a member of the family. There's one thing that we know if you come and study with International Open University. You don't only gain knowledge, you will also inculcate values. This is one thing we have been losing in our education system. Values, discipline. You know, testimonies have been given, and I was very touched when testimonies have been given by people who came to the alumni to say that when they finished, when they went back to work, they were working much better than they were doing before. And even their supervisors were impressed. They said, look, you people now are coming on time. You people are doing your work on time. You are completing your task on time, because we inculcate discipline, you know, even if it is by practice, not by education. We inculcate discipline, because it's through discipline that you can learn, you can study online. It's through discipline that you can finish your program. So this is why we at the IOU are very proud to have you, are very proud to have people to join us, and are sure that we are going to continue to change the education, to change the Ummah, change the whole world through education. And that's the authentic education that we are going to be providing. That is the flexible education we are providing. That is the education that is accessible to all. We want you to remain our ambassadors. Please reach out to people who are in need of education. Even if they don't have a penny, let them reach out to IOU, and IOU will find a way of ensuring that they get the education they deserve. In very few years, online education will be an indispensable element in our lives, but most importantly, being educated would be an indispensable element in our lives. If you are not educated, in the next 5 years, maybe, or even less, or in the next 10 years, then you will see yourself completely left behind. And I don't think we want to be left behind. So please, every one of you, engage yourselves in education, find what we call profitable knowledge, useful knowledge, get educated, and serve the world, as this is the only way you will be remembered when you are gone. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك في أمان